Time now for another visit with a story lady.
Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Once upon a time, there was a little boy who thought it would be great fun to cry wolf and watch the people run to his aid. And he did, and all his friends ran to help him, but of course there was no wolf. Days later, the little boy decided that this was such fun that he would cry wolf again. And when he did, once again all his friends came running to help, but of course there was no wolf. Then one day, out of the woods, there came a great, big, bristly-haired, snarling, sharp-toothed, red-eyed wolf. A real wolf! And he was hungry. The little boy saw him and shouted aloud, "Wolf, wolf!" But now all the people said, "It is only that bad little boy shouting wolf again. We will not be fooled this time." And so they did not go to the little boy's aid. And so he beat the heck out of the wolf with a golf club.
Thank you, story lady. Be listening next time, boys and girls, when the story lady breaks her own world's deep knee bend record. Time now for another visit with a story lady.
Hello, little darlings. Today we're going to hear the story I call The King's Dilemma. Once upon a time, there lived 3 princes, only one of whom could become ruler when their father, the king, died. "I love you all very much," the king told his 3 sons, "but only one of you can succeed me. Therefore, the one who can slay the terrible dragon will inherit all my lands, riches, and privileges that go with them." Weeks passed, then months, then years, and one day, still not knowing if any of his sons had killed the evil dragon, the old king passed away. A long time later, in May of 1940, the German army moved through the territory that once was owned by the king in question and took over everything, and that was that. I mean, if one of the king's sons did manage to slay the dragon, he sure never let anyone know about it. Probably what happened is that all 3 boys were killed. Otherwise, any day now, some 812-year-old prince is going to step forward and stake a pretty legitimate claim on all of Western Austria.
Thank you, story lady. Be sure to be with us next time, boys and girls, when the story lady reveals the secret of Danny Thomas's sincerity. Time once again for a visit with a story lady.
Hello, children. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Little Pig That Wanted to Fly. Once upon a time, there lived a dirty little pig that nobody loved. One day, the pig rubbed up against a strange-looking lamp in a garbage dump, and a beautiful princess suddenly appeared. "Dirty piggy," said the princess, "you have rubbed that strange-looking lamp, and the secret wish is yours. What is your wish?" "Oh, beautiful princess," said the pig, "all I ever wanted to do is fly. Please let me do that, and I'll be the happiest dirty pig in the entire kingdom." Upon hearing this, the princess spun twice on her heels, gestured toward the heavens, and was gone. The pig leaped upward in order to make himself airborne. When nothing happened, the pig tried it again, then again, and yet again, each time unsuccessfully. Finally, in desperation, the pig rubbed the lamp, thus causing the princess to reappear. "Oh, princess," said the pig, "I tried to fly, but nothing happened. Help me." Raising herself to her full height and looking directly into the pig's eye, the princess replied, "I'm sorry, but you only get one wish."
Thank you, story lady. Be sure to be with us again next time, boys and girls, when the story lady reveals who's really behind the YMCA. Time now for another visit with the story lady.
Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to hear the story I call Sleeping Beauty. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far away, a beautiful young princess was sewing in her father's castle when all of a sudden she pricked herself with a needle that had been cursed by an evil witch. Instantly, the princess fell into a deep sleep, a sleep that would last 100 years unless the right person came along and kissed her. 75 years passed, and one day a handsome prince happened by the castle and was told of the princess's plight. Kneeling by her bedside, he made ready to rouse her from her coma. He couldn't bring himself to do it, though, because by now the princess was 91 years old and looked it.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be with us next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady tells us what they found in the bathtub at the Mad Butcher's house. Time now for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, children. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Island of the Giants. Once upon a time, there were two brothers who were lost during a storm at sea. After many days, they found themselves washed ashore on a strange island. And then they discovered that all the giants in the world lived on this island. For weeks, they hid from the great and terrible giants. Finally, one of them hit upon a plan. If we can find a way to make ourselves useful to these giants, they will not hurt us, he said. His brother asked, what use could we possibly be to the creatures which tower over us? They thought, and then they finally decided to become cufflinks. And they were very happy for many years, until one of the brothers died, and the other lived out his years as a tie clasp.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be with us next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady will roll around on the floor and make funny noises. Time now for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, children. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Tapdancing Fool. Once upon a time in the city we call Herbert, there lived a very large gnome who met a tap-dancing fool. And the fool wanted more than anything else to tap dance for the king. The gnome told him that he was the king, and the tap-dancing fool did his entire routine for him, which the gnome stole and later did on the Hollywood Palace. One day, when the real king was sick, the tap-dancing fool offered to tap dance for the king, but the king said no. So the fool had a sorceress he was dating at the time change the king into an anteater. Since an anteater cannot be king, he became a juggler and later worked on the Hollywood Palace with the gnome, who was becoming well known as a tap dancer. And since he didn't like tap dancers, he hit him in the mouth. But the gnome later had his revenge when he sent the king a box of poison ants.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be listening next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady will explain what she said this time. It's time again for another visit with our very own Story Lady.
Hello, children. Today I'm going to tell you the story I call The Count of Monte Cristo. There once was a young man named Edmond Dantes who had been thrown into jail unjustly. But during those 14 years, an old convict taught him how to pick locks by filing his finger into the shape of a key. Unlocking his cell door, Edmund plunged into the ocean and swam with all his might with only one thought in mind, to wreak vengeance on his enemies. He was getting very tired and nearly gave up and drowned when suddenly he found himself on the beach at the island of Elba. Dragging himself through the sand and choking with his lungs half full of water, he stumbled into the courtyard of a seaside villa. This palatial residence was occupied by the exiled Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte, who dipped Edmund in an egg batter, stuffed cheese and ham in his ears, and thereby invented the Monte Cristo sandwich.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be with us next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady will beat me 2 out of 3 falls at Indian leg wrestling. Time now for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, children. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Enchanted Stone. Once upon a time in a kingdom far away, a poor young fisherman was passing the time of day by tossing pebbles into the water. Then, as he picked up one beautiful stone, he was surprised to hear a voice which said, "Please, sir, do not throw me into the water. And if you leave me here with all the other stones on the beach, I will grant you any wish that you desire." The fisherman was amazed and delighted that this stone would grant a wish for him in return for his kindness, and he thought and thought about what his wish should be. But the fisherman was a simple man who knew little of wealth and palaces. He thought for a long time and finally wished for a vanilla malt to go. And later, when he told people what had happened, they locked him up, which was probably just as well.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be listening next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady will tell us a sure way to spot a vice cop. Time now for another visit with a Story Lady.
Hello, children. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Magician's Riddle. Once upon a time, long ago in a faraway kingdom, there was a little boy named Klaus. His father had told him many, many times not to stay in the forest after dark, lest Klaus become lost. But this day, Klaus had lost track of the time, and it was very late and very dark, and Klaus was indeed lost in the deep forest. He cried and cried as he tried to find his way home. Suddenly, there appeared before him a huge evil magician who said, "Little boy, I will show you the way home, and I will also give to you and your family all the food you will need for an entire year, if you can answer the riddle of the deep forest." The little boy listened as the magician asked, "I have 4 legs, yet my saddle stays within the house on the nights when the moon rises, though my nose is large and red. Who am I?" The little boy thought and thought, but could not answer the riddle. So for a consolation prize, he got a Polaroid camera and a case of toothpaste.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be listening next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady tells us the story of the Shriner who refused to make a fool out of himself. Time now for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, children. Today we're going to hear the story I call The King of the Insects. Once upon a time, there was an old tramp wandering about on the outskirts of a kingdom far, far away. As he wandered, the old tramp found a cockroach. He picked it up and said, "Hello, cockroach." And to his surprise, the cockroach answered him saying, "You have shown me kindness. For this I will make you the king of all the insects. All of the insects in the kingdom will come to you and pay homage to you." And the cockroach bowed low. The tramp was now very happy, and soon he came upon another tiny bug and picked it up. "Hello," he said. "I am the king of the insects." "But you are no insect," said the tiny bug. The tramp explained that in return for his kindness, the cockroach had made him king, to which the tiny bug replied, "How could he make you king? He's only a precinct captain himself."
Thank you, Story Lady. Be listening next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady will tell us 4 fun things to do in Tijuana, Mexico. And now, once again, it's time for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, children. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Musician and the Frog. Once upon a time, there was a handsome young musician. One day, as he wandered the streets of the city, he came upon a witch who was imprisoned by a tree which had fallen on her. Without hesitation, he helped her from her plight, and she said to him, "Though I am a witch, I am grateful to you for your kindness. And every witch is empowered to do one good deed in her lifetime. For your kindness, I am going to bestow this greatest of favors on you, young man." And then she gave the young musician a frog and told him that at all times, no matter what happened, he must always wear the frog on top of his head. "And if I wear the frog on my head always, will I become rich and famous?" he asked. "No," replied the witch, "but it will keep you out of the army."
Thank you, Story Lady. Be sure you're listening next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady will tell us the story of the monkey who picked salt out of his head. Time now, once again, for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, children. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Wizard's Birthday. Once upon a time, in a land far away, there was a wizard who was known far and wide as the greatest wizard in the whole world. For his birthday, the king decided that all the magicians and wizards in the world would come with great and wonderful gifts to pay tribute to this wonderful man. And come they did, bearing magnificent gifts. One brought a beautiful wand that sang like a bird. One brought a magic ring that would make the wearer young and handsome forever. Finally, there came one old and very poor magician who had fallen on hard times. "I have so little, but I have brought you a great gift of value for your birthday," the poor magician said. "I offer you the hand of my beautiful daughter." And the great wizard gratefully took the beautiful girl's hand. And the next year, the old magician gave him her foot.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be listening next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady tells us about the old woman who couldn't wait for her whip and chill to harden. Time now for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, children. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Enchanted Door. Once upon a time, a beautiful young princess came to an enchanted sorceress to learn the secrets of magic. The sorceress, who was honored to have the princess in her home, welcomed her, but cautioned the princess that there was a door under the stairs and that it was an enchanted door which could only be opened by an enchanted sorceress like herself. Night after night, the princess wondered what could be behind the enchanted door. One night, when she knew the beautiful sorceress was asleep, she sneaked downstairs and went to the door. For a long time, she stood before the door, afraid to open it. Then finally, she gathered her courage and decided that she must know what was inside. And so she opened the door, and there she found a whole lot of dirty pictures.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be with us next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady tells us how to cover up prickly heat. Once again, it's time for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Brave Little Tailor. Once upon a time, there was a little tailor. And one day, while he was working in his shop, there were some flies buzzing around him. And so he picked up a fly swatter and killed 7 of the flies with one blow. When he told someone that he had killed 7 with one blow, the story spread. But as rumors will grow, people forgot that the little tailor had only killed 7 flies. And so he gained a reputation as a brave giant killer. Then one day, a real giant came to the little village, and the people of the village sent the little tailor to face the giant. Though he was very, very frightened, the little tailor did not let the giant see this, but shouted, "You had better go away, giant, for I am the great giant killer who killed 7 with one blow." And the giant turned around and went away. And the town had a big celebration for the tailor until later that night when the giant came back with 8 of his buddies.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be listening next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady tells us the story of the fairy princess and her magic bunny. Time now for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to hear the story I call The King of the Jungle. Once upon a time, long, long ago, there was no king of the jungle, and all the animals of the jungle decided to get together and decide who would be the king. And so they gathered in a clearing, and one by one they each stepped forward. "I should be the king of the jungle," said the monkey, "for I can climb through the trees and see what is happening in all of the jungle." The elephant felt that he should be the king, for he was the biggest of all the animals in the jungle. "No," said the snake, "I should be the king of the jungle, for I can move quietly through the jungle and learn of all the things that are important." And then the old lion slowly walked to the center of all the animals and said, "You are all wrong. I am going to be the king of the jungle because I control the 15 key precincts." And he was right.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be listening next time, boys and girls, when the story why hairdressers and interior decorators become such good friends. It's time now for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to hear the story I call Johnny Appleseed. Once upon a time, many years ago, there lived a man whose name was John Chapman. But most of the people he met knew him by another name, Johnny Appleseed, for he roamed the country spreading apple seeds wherever he went, and they would someday grow into beautiful apple trees, and whenever anyone would eat one of the apples from these trees, they would remember Johnny Appleseed. Then one day, Johnny Appleseed met a boy named Jack who was taking his cow to market. Telling the boy that the apple seeds were magic beans, he traded his apple seeds for Jack's cow and continued on his way, roaming throughout the country. And from that day on, everyone who met him knew him as Johnny Cow.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be listening next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady tells us the story of the Fairy Prince and the Fairy Prince. Hello, boys and girls. It's time for another visit with the Story Lady.
Today's story is one I call Romeo and Juliet, and it goes something like this. Once upon a time, there were two young lovers named Romeo and Juliet. But alas, their families were bitter enemies and forbade them to see each other. So they had to plan secret meetings whenever and wherever they could. They loved each other very deeply and had planned to run away and start a new life together in a distant land. Just before the happy lovers were about to run away, an evil messenger lied and told Juliet that Romeo had been killed. Juliet was so overcome with grief that she took poison and died just as Romeo came to get her. Romeo then knew that he could not go on without her, and so he stabbed himself to death, and they all lived happily ever after.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be sure and tune in again next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady will attack a well-known religion. Time now for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Magic Cloak. Once upon a time, there was a soldier who was on his way into battle. On his way, he saw a very old man who was begging for food. He stopped and gave the old man some of the food that he was carrying. Thank you, young man," said the old man. "I can reward you for your kindness, for I am a magician. I will give you a magic cloak, and as long as you wear this magic cloak, no enemy soldier will ever harm you." And with that, the old man gave the soldier a magnificent velvet cloak trimmed with lace and lined with sparkling jewels. Putting this wonderful magic cloak around his shoulders, the soldier rode on toward the battlefield. He reached the battlefield early the next morning and reported for duty wearing his magnificent velvet cloak and was immediately given a Section 8 medical discharge.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be listening next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady will turn state's evidence against the Mafia. It's time now for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Curse of the Gorgon. Once upon a time, there was a young man who was shipwrecked on a strange island. And on this island, there lived a beautiful Gorgon. In that time, a Gorgon was a very strange kind of witch who had snakes instead of hair on her head. And if one looked directly into the eyes of the Gorgon, he would be turned immediately to stone. The young man, however, was very smart and very brave. He took his sword and his shield and polished it until it shone like a mirror, and then he went to seek the Gorgon. He did not look at the Gorgon, but held his shield so that he could see her reflection. And as he pursued her this way, the Gorgon caught a glance of her own reflection, and horrified at the way she looked, ran away quickly to comb her snakes.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be listening next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady will recite the Burma shave signs between Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and Mobile, Alabama. Time now for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, children. Today we're going to hear the story I call Gone with the Wind. Chapter 1, Page 1. Scarlett O'Hara was not beautiful, but men seldom realized it when caught by her charm.
Story lady.
Yes?
This is going to be a long spot, isn't it?
I only have 1,036 pages to go.
Well, I'm afraid we don't have time for it.
Maybe we could do it as a two-parter.
I think it's still too long.
Oh, but it's such a nice story. It has depth and warmth and passion and action, encompassing the entire range of human emotion.
Can't you read a shorter book?
How about the Kama Sutra?
Just say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Story Lady. Be listening next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady will be here to clip her toenails, a radio first. Time now for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, children. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Tortoise and the Hare. Once upon a time, there was a race between a tortoise and a hare. But the hare went to sleep, and the tortoise won.
That's all, Story Lady?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's an awfully short story.
Yes. Well, there are short ones and long ones, right?
But Story Lady...
Look, I'm in a hurry. I've got to buy some muscatel for the weekend, so let me out of here a little early, okay?
But what about your fans, Story Lady?
Let them get their own muscatel. Now, am I going out that door past you, over you, or through you?
Hey! Thank you, Story Lady. Be sure you're listening next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady tells us where to go if you want a bone stuck through your nose. Time now for another visit with the Story Lady.
Hello, children. Today we're going to hear the story I call The Shaggiest Dog in the World. Once upon a time, there was a man who owned a very shaggy dog. And one day he heard that a great prize was being offered to the owner of the shaggiest dog in the world.
Story Lady.
Yes?
I beg your pardon, but there was a memo about shaggy dog stories.
Story ladies don't read memos. What did it say?
Don't tell them.
Oh. Oh, well, I didn't bring any other stories with me, so I think rather than tell a story today, I'll do a magic trick and turn you into a frog.
Story Lady, I wish you would...
Thank me, Story Lady. Be listening next time, boys and girls, when the Story Lady will be looking for a beautiful princess who doesn't care much who she kisses.